This is Dateline News and Conversation. We're live tonight, as I will be trying to do almost every Sunday night from here on. Um, my guest tonight's a good friend. Um, Let me see where we go here. There we go.
Yep, here I
Stas
am.
Krapivnik. Stas, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I know I don't look my usual handsome and mysterious self. I got allergies, so pardon if I'm sniffling all over the place, talking through
That's
my
okay.
nose,
You're excused.
and
Stas,
half asleep from the pills, from the anti-allergy pills. So sorry if I look like I'm stoned and out of it, but uh,
I'm
what can you
sure.
do?
I'm sure we're going to do fine. Stas, the world has changed since January 3rd. Um, and, you know, things are not looking good for the future. But I want to start tonight asking you, uh, who is sitting there in Moscow. You're really a well-known and respected analyst, not only for Russian audiences and Russian television, but many of your followers around the world. I want to ask you, there was an attempt, supposedly alleged, on Putin's life with that massive drone attack on his, that special facility in, I think it was Novgorod. And then Russia unleashed for the second time their Oreshnik hypersonic missile on a massive underground oil facility in Lvov. I have to ask you, Stas, that was an obvious message, but for whom? Was it for the EU? Was it for Brussels? Was it for Donald Trump? What are your thoughts?
Well, one correction: it wasn't oil; it was gas. It was natural gas. Um, Natural gas is normally stored in either man-made or natural caverns that are reinforced, so they're underground, and it's stored there under pressure. So the power of the Oreshnik is that without going nuclear, you can destroy specific targets, reinforce specific targets. See, normally the reason you use nuclear weapons on a city, for example, unless you just want to exterminate the city, you use them because it's pretty hard to get at whatever targets are deep down. Enemy reinforced bunkers, things like that. So you just take everything out. I'm sorry. Uh, yeah, this is horrible. The cats aren't going outside because it's snowing, so I got allergies are starting to build up. Um. So, anyways, so you'd use a nuclear weapon to destroy whatever's underground. You do surface detonation, and it just takes out the bunkers and what have you. The Oreshnik glide vehicles are coming in at Mach 13. So they are going some like 8 or 9 thousand. No, I think more than that even. Some 10,000 kilometers per second, faster even. Mach 13 is not actually their official speed; it's slower than that, but that's what they've been clocked in. So, I'm sorry. So, anyways, when they strike, they're coming in. The reason they're glowing is they're coming in a plasma envelope, and that plasma is 4,000 degrees Celsius. Just for reference, the sun is 6,000 degrees Celsius, and they don't burn; they disintegrate. At that heat, at that pressure, matter just breaks down into individual atoms and just floats away. So you don't have bones left, you don't have concrete left, you don't have metal left, you have nothing left. It just disintegrates into uh, individual atoms. Everything around past that, then it starts to melt and so on. And it can hit about 6, 8 stories deep. Officially, with the first strike, the test, from the West, they just denied that the weapon exists. I mean, but then again, the West denied that Russia had hypersonic missiles until about the third or fourth Kinjal came raining down on some NATO headquarters underground in Ukraine, and then they kind of it became more and more difficult to just say it doesn't exist because they keep landing, and they can't be shot down. They physically cannot be shot down right now by anything in this world. Though the S-550 has been designed to shut down, shoot down. I'm sorry, shoot down slower moving hypersonics. The difference between a hypersonic and a uh, supersonic or ballistic missile. All ballistic missiles are okay. So hypersonics are like Mach 3 or higher. All ballistic missiles are going around when they're coming into their terminal arch. They're all going a Mach 5, Mach 6, Mach 8. Uh, but they're not hypersonics because they're on a ballistic course. That's it. So they can be shot down because if you have uh, enough time and distance, you can calculate that ballistic arc off your radar signatures and calculate where it will be approximately when, and throw something in its way. The hypersonics are maneuverable, something the U.S. can't. It's barely gotten anything at the threshold of hypersonics to work. Partially because you need nanotechnologies, nanomaterials with carbon tubules to coat the missile itself so it doesn't melt. And the U.S. has had massive problems trying to control their movement. In other words, get a signal into that plasma envelope and be able to control the missile instead of just having a hypersonic rocket, basically, that's on a straight course for ballistic. Russia's got that. China's got that. Iran's got it. I don't know if Iran developed on its own or developed in conjunction with Russia and China, but they do. So when the Oreshnik comes through, it can strike up to 6 to 8 stories deep. So first of all, if you want to take out that gas storage facility, which is 50% of Ukraine's gas, plus certain other European countries store their gas there. I don't know, they do it out of stupidity or out of a blind faith that if their gas is there, the Russians won't dare to touch it. Well, it's no longer there. So, guess we dared. So that's part of it. Smack the Europeans upside the back of the head, at least certain European countries. Additionally, since it destroyed something that close, it wasn't Lvov itself. It was south of Lvov, but in the Lvov province, a bit south of Lvov, where it was stored. And videos came out, people showing that their gas just switched off. They ran out of gas because the pumping stations and that entire facility is destroyed. Additionally, it causes, at least from the Yuzhmash, we know strike in Dnipropetrovsk. It causes about a 4.6, 4.8 Richter scale earthquake from those strikes. Now, the West is constantly saying, oh, there's nothing to it, but the two strike targets are top secret, closed off, so nobody can come and see because there's nothing there to see. So, believe it as you wish. So this is a direct signal to the West that, keep pushing the envelope. We'll see where it gets you.
So, Stas, I have to ask you. You said it was a signal to the West. Now, personally, I wish people would stop saying the West when what they're really talking about is the United States. So, was this a message to Donald Trump? Was this also a message to Brussels?
Well, in this case, it is the West, except I would subtract out of that West the Austro-Hungarian Empire, or what's formerly the Austro-Hungarian Empire, because that seems to be the only part of the West that came to its senses early on, at least as far as Hungary. And then Slovakia came to its senses, and then Czech came to its senses. And the Austrians voted nationalist, what's now considered right wing. They voted nationalist party that still is it's a majority. Well, it's the biggest party, but it can't form its own. It doesn't have hyper majority, so it can't form the government. So the liberals are still in power, and Austria is still pursuing suicidal tendencies. But unless the election is stolen, like in Romania or Moldova, and so or in Germany to a degree, surprisingly not in Czech. But I think the Ukrainian factor played a big role in Czech. They're just sick and tired of Ukrainians because 10% of the population right now is Ukrainians, and they're acting like asses. And the Czech people are just sick and tired of it. They may not like Russia, but the Ukrainian's right underneath your nose, and he's making a nuisance of himself on a daily basis. So the Austrians, I think, for the next elections will also go neutral, which was the best policy Austria ever followed for its own sake. So at least the former Austro-Hungarian Empire, the nations that make it up, seem to have common sense as opposed to the rest of the West. The rest of the West is still on a suicidal mission to get World War III going. I don't know how they just think they're going to survive, but then you got Macron, it was reported in the French press that he was building a bunker for himself and his man, woman, wife thing, whatever, child abuser, because even if it's a woman, the fact that it was a groomer that took a 14-year-old and groomed him, that's already a pedophile in any which way you look at it. So it's still a criminal offense in most countries, anyways. So they're building a 1,500 square meter bunker, which is interesting because if you think about it, I mean, obviously they're not going to live in that bunker if World War III happens all by them lonesomes. They're going to have servants. Why would you live there without servants? Except now, I doubt if they ever got this far in their mental capacity because most of these elites are so inbred they can't think past the edge of their nose. Why would they serve you once they're in the bunker? I mean, to get them to serve you so they get in the bunker, yeah. Okay. Now that we're in the bunker, we're survived. Who are you again? Oh, you're the president of a country that no longer exists. You have money that no longer needs anybody because it doesn't exist anymore, because the country doesn't exist. So the only thing that exists is what's ever in the bunker, and you're a parasite, and we're going to get rid of you. More likely, all these very rich people and their servants in the bunkers are going to find out the servants don't really want to take orders anymore. They'll probably kill them off and take over the bunkers. That's kind of how humanity runs, which is hilarious for these ultra-liberal elites that are going to survive. Most of you probably wind up dead. People just get sick and tired of listening to you whine. I mean, that's the reality of human nature. But yeah, so I mean, I think they're just flat out of their minds for the most part. They're not deep thinkers.
Yeah. Well, I want to move on now to the kind of a seismic event that happened on January
A bigger
3rd.
seismic event than the seismic event that the Russian caused when it hit, because that earthquake that it hit, that it causes.
No, I want to talk about Donald Trump invading Venezuela and abducting Nicolas Maduro and his wife and whisking him out of the country to stand trial, supposedly. I want your take. Now, you're Russian born, but you grew up in the United States. You're educated in the United States, a couple of university degrees. You served in the United States military. I want your take on the significance of what Donald Trump had done on January 3rd in Venezuela. And then we'll dig into it a little bit deeper. What was your initial reaction? What are you thinking about now in terms of the significance of that event?
Well, first of all, I don't understand why people are shocked. I mean, seriously, why are you shocked? Anybody shocked? Well, read the last 150 years of American history. It's been raping and pillaging Latin America nonstop. It's just a matter of who do we go after this time? Who's got resources or who's got an uppity? That's been the American approach to Latin America. The U.S. is the biggest retardation on the development of Latin America that ever was. This isn't anything new. It just hasn't happened in a few years. I mean, well, the U.S. did just strong arm the Chinese out of the Panamanian canal, whether the Panamanians want it or not. Of course, the Panamanian government is so it's so spineless that even celebrated when a tanker under its flag was grabbed with the U.S. Happened to be a Chinese tanker. In which case the Chinese said, okay, you stole $2 billion of our oil, no problem. Smack down with no more rare earth processed magnets for your 20 top defense firms. So, go screw yourselves. Figure out how you're going to do things now, because the U.S. is absolutely. I mean, there's not many places you can go outside of China at the moment. You can go to Russia. China has 97% of the world's processing of rare earth minerals. 97% of the world's processing. It doesn't matter how much rare earth; they're not that rare to begin with. Some of them are pretty rare. Out of 17 different, others are actually relatively common. The problem is how do you get them out and processed if you don't have the facilities? And they're expensive, they're dirty, they're high energy cost, and the U.S. doesn't have any processing. I think Trump was flipping around one magnet some company just finally started making from one of the elements, and God only knows how much that magnet cost. Um, Russia has about 1% of the world's processing, and the other 2% is spread over the rest of the world. And Russia's actually got a plan by 2030 to double its processing capabilities to 7,000 square tons of rare earth mineral processed, and then to continue growing it to A, be self sufficient, and B, to compete on the market. I mean, they're still not a threat to China, obviously, as far as market forces. But then again, the demand is growing so fast that China won't notice any competition, because the Chinese are not going to be able to keep up with demand anyways. There's going to be shortages by 2028, 2029, even without the U.S. being able to get its hands on anything. So just because electronics and other things growing outside of military industrial complex, but the only part of the industry, manufacturing industry, that really still works in the U.S. So that they took. Well, first of all, they didn't invade Venezuela. Let's be honest about this. They raided Venezuela. Trump now runs Venezuela. I don't think the Venezuelans agreed to that. It's like, okay, in your own head, you run Venezuela. Sure, we're going to give you 60 million barrels to sell and put into offshore accounts that are have zero transparency for our benefits. Sure, Mr. Trump. So far, Rodriguez doesn't seem to be playing game too well. So sooner or later, Uncle Sam was going to actually have to try to invade, and that's when the fireworks really start. In my opinion, Maduro was betrayed. Uh, they're claiming all kinds of super weapons from anonymous sources that survived the attack. It's always those anonymous sources. There's a whole, I think, collective of just anonymous sources waiting to fill American newspapers. Funny, none of those anonymous sources ever have a face, a name, a family name, or anything else. They're just all anonymous. Just one anonymous source. Uh, so why it was a betrayal, in my opinion, because the systems were all shut off. When they say, oh, well, they shut down the radar and all this. Look, this is bullshit, and I'll tell you why it's bullshit. Because they flew Chinooks in, and if anybody who's been around a Chinook knows what a Chinook is, it is a huge helicopter. It carries, I think, like about 40 or 50 soldiers. It's just a huge, slow, loud helicopter. They brought two Chinooks in. Special forces do not raid. If there's any kind of question, by the way, especially of them being shot down, a friggin' Chinook. You've got to just hang your head low and put a bullet in your own skull cap. If you miss a Chinook with anything. I mean, these things are gigantic. They're like a barn friggin' flying in front of you at 100 meters up, so 300 feet, and then lowering down. And you can't not hear them. Special forces normally fly in what's called a little bird or in a Black Hawk. Little birds are really small helicopters. The guys are sitting with their legs dangling off the side, four guys. And then a Black Hawk is a much larger helicopter. They're both fast, especially a little bird, and they're relatively quiet. Chinooks aren't. The fact that they flew in two Chinooks, they knew they were going to get shot at. I mean, you can shut down the S-300s, the S-400s in the country, and anybody with an RPG, a heavy machine gun, would take that Chinook right out of the sky. It's that simple. Any shoulder-fired man-pad anti-aircraft missile like an Eagle Eye or a Stinger would send that Chinook into a pile of junk, and everybody in there to the morgue. That's the reality of it. The fact that they flew in two Chinooks shows they had no worries that anybody with an AK even would take a pot shot at them, which means that the military, Venezuelan military, was bought and told to stand down. There's one guy that opened fire, so I guess somebody didn't quite get the message. Nobody else fired. So all these stories about super weapons and all this crap, that's all it is crap. These guys had perfect intelligence because the CIA's been running around I mean, they've been running around there for the last 40 years. They've been really running around for the last half a year buying up everybody. Problem is, it's hard to keep them bought. I mean, you got to figure even if 5% of the population supports Maduro or his movement, you got 1.5 million armed people pissed off at you. How many of them will fight? Well, even if 10%, you got 150,000 combatants. And then Trump, being the brain trust that he is, took Machado, which he would need to do any kind of even slight legitimacy to his imperial rule, and threw her under the bus. So now we're just going to rule directly. Yeah, we don't need her either. Well, what do you think the person like that is going to do, and the people around her? They're going to go take pot shots at you too. This is Ba'athist replay all over from Iraq. I mean, you got to be a special kind of stupid to piss off everybody in the country that you want to rule. But Trump has done that. Trump and Machado, Marco Rubio, Narco Marco, and the rest of the Trump brain trust has managed to piss off everybody. And by the way, not one American trooper has stepped on a foot as an occupying force in Venezuela so far. The problem with the West, and this isn't just America, the West, these brain trusts that are the rulers of most of these Western countries, first and foremost with Trump, is because they're not exactly mentally and intellectually deep. They and their PR machines, they tend to make every issue in every country into one physical face. See, if we just get rid of Vladimirovich, Russia will be on its knees, everything will be broken, we'll be living, swimming in chocolate. If we just get rid of Maduro, if we just get rid of the Ayatollah, if we just get rid of that one guy or maybe two guys, everything will work out. It never works out. It never works out because most of these organizations are hierarchical and they're wide, and there's always somebody ready to take that place. And oftentimes a lot more vicious towards you than the people that you just murdered or kidnapped, especially if they were, waiting for negotiations and you backstabbed them while you're talking about how godly and white and fluffy you are, and the epitome of the garden and the civilization, all that other crap. So there's that moment. Additionally, I mean, it's obvious they never planned anything past step one. I'm calling these guys the underwear gnomes or the underpant gnomes. If you ever watch South Park, and their business plan was step one, steal the underpants. Step two, blank. Step three, profit. And this is what we have with the Trump planning scheme. Step one, we grab Maduro. Step three, all become stinking rich, stealing everything from Venezuela. How we do it, it's all magical. Why plan the next day? And obviously they haven't planned the next day because they're running around right now trying to figure out what the hell they're going to do. But to demonstrate just how pathetically thin all of this BS about drugs and all that half of MAGA follows Trump like cultists. I mean, you just throw them any rotten bone and they'll beg and thank you and ask you to beat them again. Just like the Democrats, their cultists will do whatever because they're cultists. I mean, about half of MAGA said, screw Trump. Obviously, he betrayed us. The other half of MAGA will follow Trump off the cliff no matter how many times they have to land in their noggins because they're cultists. Just to demonstrate how pathetically bullcrap this all was, the New York Times is reporting the Justice Department drops claims that Venezuela Cartel de los Soles is an actual group. So supposedly Maduro is head of this cartel that's flooding America with drugs. Except the cartel doesn't exist, and we admit it. But hey, since he's here, let's try him on. Oh, I know, federal weapons charges. Except that he's a president of a foreign nation, had a assault rifle in his nation, but they will try him on American law for not having a federal permit to have an assault rifle or some other crap like that. It's a circus. Washington is a moronic circus of half-wits and underwear gnomes.
That's probably somewhat of an understatement too. But here's something that I don't think enough people are talking about. China has had enormous investments in infrastructure in Venezuela. China was getting a huge percentage of its oil from Venezuela. Now, if that has stopped,
Sorry.
what is China going to do now that Trump is running Venezuela with all it's got to be billions of dollars worth of investments. And then there's Russia, also has invested heavily in Venezuela, and certainly with military. You talked about the S-300, S-400. It's pretty well known. Russia has a lot of military hardware invested in Venezuela. So the question I have for you is, what effect is this going to have on Russia and China? And are they capable of doing anything to defend their interest?
Well, look, first of all, let's be honest about it. If Venezuela is gone, Russia, it may hit the Russian prestige to some degree, but the Russian economy is not going to implode. It's not going to even notice it because Russia doesn't need anything from Venezuela. Russia is supporting Venezuela. If Venezuelan oil is gone from China, China just buys more Russian oil. That's because the heavy sour crude that's very thick and gooey and dark and has a lot of sulfur in it. China, when it buys it, the Russia Ural brand is the same thing. It's not all Russian oil, but it's one of the Russian brands, the Ural brand. U.S. was getting it from Canada, from the tar sands, but that's relatively expensive. You're literally just boiling it out of sand. In this case, in a big processing facility, and Iran also has that. There's more deposits of it in different countries, just not very large deposits. Most of the oil that Venezuela has is actually this oil. It's 303 billion barrels, but it's actually a low quality oil. The thing is the American Gulf Coast refineries are set up for this because they were set up when U.S. companies ran roughshod over Venezuela, owned the government in Venezuela, and just got away with everything they wanted, basically, to the detriment of the people and Venezuelan companies and so on. So there's that. So China, well, first of all, even with that, and everything that Trump's boasting about, let's begin with the fact that Venezuela can't up its production. And this is partially Venezuela's fault. Actually, most of it's Venezuela's fault. Under Chavez and under Maduro, they took the funds that were meant for repairs and reinvestment in the oil industry, and they spent it on social programs. Well, guess what happens when you don't have money to repair? The other money that they had, which for some idiotic reason, they kept their reserves in the U.S. So their main opponents trying to remove them, start with Chavez and then further on Maduro, they kept their reserves in the U.S., which then just froze them. Yeah, it's a pretty damn stupid move on the Venezuelan part. Like them, hate them, but the fact is that's a stupid move. So they haven't been investing, and it's in a very sorry state. And the production's been declining for years. They don't have the money. They spend all the money that they do make off of it on social programs, but you can't do that because you're literally eating a goose, and you're still expecting some golden eggs. Well, you can eat parts of the goose, one leg, one wing, but sooner or later you eat so much of the goose, there ain't enough goose left to be alive. That's where they're getting anyway. So they need massive investment, whether they like it or not. It's just a matter of who provides the investment. The problem is here with Trump, He had the opportunity to go in. Maduro offered him to go in and offered him actually a pretty sweet deal. But Trump ran by Narco Marco. Narco Marco wants to run for president very soon against Vance. So he needs the dissonant voices. And Marco Marcos had a little Woody, had his wanker and a little Woody to go after anybody, to go after a bunch of different countries in Latin America, starting with Venezuela. Yeah, I mean, U.S. has been trying to get rid of that government for over 20 years now. They actually had Chavez kidnapped at one point, but the guy that they put in place was much worse than Chavez. The CIA actually let him go, gave him a barrel of honey to say sorry. You know, that's a Russian joke. But so yeah, so this is a situation we're dealing with right now. It needs investment. It needs billions upon billions of dollars in investment, at least 6 or 7. Problem is, U.S. companies aren't willing to do it. One, there's no safety for them. They get on the ground right now. 80% of that oil is deep within the interior. There's nothing to protect them from getting whacked by any of the Maduro supporters. There's zero to protect them. So they would require boots on the ground. At one point, you could have gotten the liberals that are being quoted as right wing. They're not right wing, at least they're globalists. Globalists are not right wing. They're their own little category. And when I'm at it, the problem with the world is it keeps thinking in left and right wing, left wing. That conflict has been over for decades, folks. Reality is, it doesn't matter if you're left wing, right wing, or what have you. What matters is, are you globalist or you localist? And the globalists have no loyalty. They have no morals. They will mutate to whatever position gets them power in that nation at that point. They will be Marxists. They will be liberal. They will be monarchists if they can put a monarch in a Shah in power in Iran that is beholden only to them. They'll be whatever the hell they need. They need to be. They'll be a small Catholic schoolgirl. I mean, they will be whatever gets them power. They don't give a damn because in the end, they're the transnational capital. They don't give a damn about you or anybody else except getting more money and getting the new feudal slaves to serve them. And lowering the human population, which they keep talking about. So if you don't think they actually want to do that, you're clinically insane. When people tell you constantly they want to get rid of the majority of you, believe them. They want to get rid of the majority of you. That they haven't done it yet doesn't mean they don't want to do it. So these companies need investments. So Trump, by the way, since they didn't want to invest, Trump has now committed $6-7 billion to invest in Venezuela. So much for America first, by the way, while we're at it. So these companies are going to get free money from the U.S. that someday they'll pay back, just like they someday paid back in Iraq. Iraq and Afghanistan, for those that don't know, cost the U.S. taxpayer somewhere between $7 and $8 trillion. So almost a fourth of the insane debt the U.S. holds is from just and that's more conservative figures because some people have been counted up to 14 trillion. But we'll stick at 7 and 8 trillion. That's pretty damn big, anyways. So how many more trillions are heading toward Venezuela? Who knows? And by the way, Trump's supposed to meet Zelensky in Davis. And rumor has it, or rumor being actual news articles, that Trump is going to commit to a recovery fund that the U.S. taxpayer gets to pay out for 10 years in Ukraine that somehow is going to get returned eventually at a small sum of $80 billion per year. So $800 billion more dollars over 10 years for Zelensky companies, washing machines, and getting that money back into the pockets of American politicians. Your money that isn't getting invested in, if you're an American anyways, your money isn't getting invested in your schools, in your corroded and collapsing infrastructure, or your quality of life, because, you're the peasants. Yeah, I know. You don't want to hear that, but you are. You're the tax peasants. In fact, honestly speaking, serfs under feudal lords paid taxes that were many times lower than what you pay taxes on every day in your life. Just to put it in perspective, the peasants would be appalled at how much you have to pay the lords these days compared to what they paid. Just to stick that knife in a little deeper. What can China and Russia do? That's the question, right?
It can, and
Well,
Stas, not only what did they do, what can they do, if anything, to stop Trump and where he seems to be going? Greenland next, then it's probably Iran. You got Russia and China, the two most powerful countries in the world besides the United States. What can they do?
well, first of all, the question is why should they do anything? Think about this. First of all, if we're talking about naval conflict, the Caribbean is a long way away from Russia across the entire Atlantic, and even longer away from China. They can't get across the Panama Canal anymore, so they have to actually go around the entire world. So obviously, they're not going to fight there. They don't have bases, ships need resupply, and so on. But why would they? What they need to do now, sorry, the Venezuelan people are going to get screwed, but the reality is what it is to get the U.S. to go into Venezuela. I mean, first of all, the U.S. is the brain trust around Trump is stupid enough to tell everybody Mexico, Colombia, Nicaragua, Cuba, you're all next. Now shut up, sit down, and let us finish with Venezuela. Okay, sure. Oh, and Brazil probably too, because Brazil came out on the side of Venezuela, Maduro. So just all shut up and wait your turn, because that's how reality works in their mind. Reality, what's going to happen is welcome to proxy. Except this isn't going to be just the Venezuelans fighting you. These Venezuelans, first of all, let's be honest. Half of Latin America wants a piece of American meat. They have a lot of friggin' anger toward the U.S. because the U.S. has been interfering in their lives for the last 150 years, overthrowing governments. And we're not just talking some, everybody's like, oh, the leftists or the Marxists. No, this is everybody. Rightists, centrists, leftists, everybody. Nationalists. Let's remember how Panama became Panama. Panama, as part of Colombia, the French tried to build the Panamanian Canal. It all failed. A lot of people died from diseases. So did the Americans, but that's nobody likes to talk about that one. So the U.S. decided to have its shot. It proposed. The Colombian government gave a price that it wanted for rental of the lands. The U.S. said it's too expensive. The Colombians wouldn't back down. So the U.S. created a civil war for them and tore away Panama. And it was so egregious that the Panamanian side, the representative of Panama, if you want to call them that signed the deal with the Americans, was the chief French engineer from the previously fallen project. That, by the way, was not a citizen of Colombia or Panama. So there you go. Gunboat diplomacy in the 1900s. So everybody still, these people remember this, and they all want vengeance. And here you're going to put American troops right on the ground to let them have vengeance. And for those Team America, if you remember that movie, hoo-ha, hoo-ha, we're bombing somebody, we're all powerful. Welcome to reality. At the height of Vietnam, the U.S. had 550,000 troops, boots on the ground. Not all were combat, obviously. There was combat support, there was aviation, all that, but 550,000. If you put the entire U.S. Army and Marine Corps together, you're getting about 500,000 right now. Pulling the worn out, tired out reserve, the National Guard, okay, so you might have more. Now, Venezuela is 3 times the size of Vietnam. Alpine mountains, triple canopied jungle, swamps, savannas, and so on and so on. And most of the resources are deep in. You got to get them out of the ground and then get them to the ports. Not an easy thing to do, especially when drones. I can sit in a tree from 3 kilometers away and take your fuel truck right out, or your pipeline. Try to control all that. So without boots on the ground, U.S. ain't gonna do it. Problem for the U.S. is it ain't got the troops to do boots on the ground. Welcome back to the draft, ladies and gentlemen. And that's when Joe Sixpack sitting on his arse watching TV, thinking, "Oh, cool! I'm getting to watch combat video." It gets a letter, or his sonny, or gets a letter that, "Oh, you're going to be the first one on the block to go to foreign lands, meet foreign people, and not try to get your throat cut by them while you're killing them, and they're killing you." Oh, whoops! Soccer moms are suddenly going to realize that their little boys are possibly going to become jungle meat for somebody, or going to come back missing body parts. yeah, it suddenly for once might actually get real for Americans what war is if enough body bags start coming back. Something that Trump and all of them kind of understand, so they're kind of trying to avoid this, but they've painted themselves in such a corner that they can't. So now what? Who's going to proxy the U.S. in Venezuela? Well, everybody. Obviously, you're going to have Colombia, Mexico, Nicaragua, and Cuba doing it. And then you've got the rest of the world superpowers: China, Russia, and now I guarantee you Iran's going to be in it, and probably quite a few other countries. Because why not? U.S. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. I mean, and let's take it another step. That row of Congress morons and halfwits that are all coming out and saying, yeah, because we were able to grab a Chinese tanker that was coming out under a Panama flag, and we were able to track down a Guyanese tanker that reflagged Russian, and it only took us almost a week to do it, and against a tanker, they're not exactly speedboats. To track it down from the Atlantic, we are the unbeatable power. We can do whatever we want. There is no rule of law. We are the law. We're the lion of the jungle. Well, first of all, since most of you probably can't read and write and never slept through biology, lions don't live in jungles. Pumas live in jungles. Panthers live in jungles. Lions don't live in jungles. They live in savannas and mountains and places like that. Tigers live in forests. Just to be an ass, point that out. And the king of the jungle isn't the big cat. The king of the jungle is the guy with the big spear that sticks the big cat. So while we're at it, if you really want to live in a maritime and world situation that has no international law, United States, the country that can't feed itself. The U.S. imports 40% of its food. Let's just begin with that. U.S. is absolutely dependent on maritime trade. And you morons, because the whole world heard you as you're doing little victory laps and slapping each other in the arse, just put a target on every single American freighter out there. Oh, there's no more rules. You think the U.S. Navy is going to be able to run around the world? Half the aircraft carriers are broken in dry dock. You think the U.S. Navy is going to be able to run around all over the world trying to keep every American freighter from being a target of pirates, or some other state just takes the flag off and takes the freighter out, or kidnaps it, or what have you? Because you've just declared war on the entire world when it comes to maritime trade. We can do whatever we want. Well, so can everybody else. These people aren't that smart to figure that out. U.S. Navy some admiral should have said, "Whoa, idiots! You're mental numbnuts. We can't do this. We can't defend our ships all over the world. There are too many of them. Ain't enough of us." But apparently no admiral has enough cojones or honor or pride or anything else in him. Just agreed to get the money after he gets out of office to actually say, "Listen, you numbnuts, it ain't going to work that way." But I guess the U.S. is going to have to find out the hard way, because some lessons have to be learned that way.
Stas, I've heard nobody talk about what you've been talking about, the inability, the incapacity of the United States really to enforce any of this. And in order, what you mentioned about all of Central and South America, they hate the Americans. Yankee go home. They've been chanting that for decades. And so I've never thought of it. I haven't seen anybody else talk about what would happen if America put boots on the ground anywhere in Central and South America. It would be worse than 1,000 Afghanistans, 1,000 more Vietnams. I hadn't thought of that, Stas, but that's really incredible. The other thing you mentioned that I thought was really good: why should Russia and China try to do anything? Where they're sitting, China can get its oil now from Russia. Russia doesn't need anything out of Venezuela. Let's just sit back and watch this show, this deranged ideologue, megalomaniac, Donald Trump, pretend that he's king of the world or king of the jungle. I hadn't really thought about any of that. Now, with the time we have left, I've got to get to Ukraine. You've been on top of that. You know what's going on. Trump's little attempt, or whoever tried to attempt supposedly the assassination of Vladimir Putin with that attack on that special installation in Novgorod. And with what Trump is doing right now, declaring, I have my own morality, I have no need of international law. What does all of that have to do, and where does it leave Trump's peace plan and peace negotiations for Ukraine? What do you think is going to happen with that? Is that over? And the other part of that, Stas, which you're an expert on, with Russia unleashing that Orezhnik on that Lvov Oblast, and from what I'm reading from other sources, Telegram channels, Russia has been unleashing hell all over Ukraine, from Odessa to Kiev. Lights are out. I'm getting reports from some people that I have known who are saying we haven't had water, lights, electricity in a week. So what the heck is Russia doing at the present time?
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for the kind words. There have been other people have been mentioned what's going to happen in Venezuela. I have to be honest about it. Obviously, Denny Davis, Colonel McGregor, a few other people. Well, nobody listens to them because, the Trump administration doesn't listen to anybody except its own ego. Greenland, by the way, I didn't mention Greenland. Again, why should Russia interfere? This is great. NATO is eating itself. And Iceland is going to be next. Greenland is needed. Whatever Trump's reasons are, the real reasons, again, are resources. There's a lot of mineral wealth underneath the ice sheet, which it's pretty difficult to get at. But there's a lot of oil offshore from Greenland. While Iceland doesn't have oil or gas in only negligible amounts, it has a lot of aluminum processing, which, by the way, out of that red mud, you get you can bleach out 5 of your rare earth metals. And you need volume in aluminum to get it, working. The Chinese have huge volume. So is Russia. Not as big as China, obviously, but still. U.S. has under 1 million tons a year. And Iceland has gigantic amounts of free energy in thermal, which is what the U.S. needs or U.S. oligarchs in the IT sector need for their processing plants for their supercomputers and AI. And by the way, it's cheaper to cool the systems because it's a cold climate. You just open the windows, quite literally. You don't need to run the air conditioner most of the time. So it's a win-win. Iceland will be next. As far as security, U.S. base has been there in Greenland since the 1950s. The rent they pay is negligible. This is just about resources offshore, first and foremost, and Iceland's resources. I guarantee you Iceland is next, if the Icelandians haven't figured that out yet. So watching NATO self-destruct is great. They're now the underwear gnomes of the EU are now first Macron, now Meloni, who took her Google eyes off of the mass murdering El Jelani. If you get a woman that looks at you the way she looked at El Jelani, she's a keeper. A total groupie. Oh, please tell me how you cut those throats of those little kitties. Oh, and the Americans you killed, the Americans. Oh, I think she was having an orgasm just staring at them. I mean, look at the pictures. It's hilarious to think what she is. And she's been flooding Italy with migrants. Her little promise to stop all that just went away. And she said, well, we're going to need another 1 million plus. Sorry, that's just how it is. Here we go. Open the doors again. So Maloney is just another fake conservative, as a majority of these globalists are. I mean, look who stands behind them. So, but now they're all wanting to talk to Russia, and across the whole social media, suddenly it's Europe united. Oh, and yeah, Russia's part of Europe. It's not, sorry, we've been trying to rape Russia for the last 1,000 years, but particularly the last 4 years, and screaming how we have to destroy you and break you apart and sending weapons and psycho mercs over to try to kill you and kill your civilians. Oh, there's not even that. Oh, sorry. It's just, Oh, yeah. Hey, Russians. Hey, Russian subhuman animals over there. We're looking at you. Yeah, yeah. We'll say you're part of Europe. Now come die for us and save us from America. Which from the Russian side is kind of something along the lines of go, screw off. Europe is screwed. You dug your grave, go lay in it. We'll be happy to throw some dirt on top of your heads. I mean, Russia doesn't give a damn about Europe. I mean, realistically speaking, I think that pisses the Europeans even more off. Is Russia doesn't need Europe for anything. Russia's fighting for its historic homelands in what is today eastern and central Ukraine that the communists created this Ukraine out of Russian historic lands. Everything west of that, it could. I mean, the Poles and all them, all these people, they can become fabulously rich. Nobody gives a damn in Russia. They can all die off. Nobody gives a damn in Russia. They just don't give a damn about Europe. Europe is a second, third world economy collapsing under its own weight, degenerate culture, being replaced as I mean, the locals are being replaced at an incredible rate. What do we need it for? We don't. As far as Ukraine, um, so yeah, I mean, okay, 91 drones. While from the Russian side, there is no official word of where Vladimir Vladimirovich was actually located at that point. Western media has let out that he was waiting for another phone call from Trump to continue negotiations, and he was on location at his villa there, residency. So, was it an assassination attempt? Well, let's look at Trump's and the U.S. record in general. Yeah, I'd say it was. I mean, sure, they do it through a proxy. Where did a proxy get its satellite data from? Where do you set up the victim to sit and wait to get assassinated by? It was all U.S. Or maybe it was British gave the satellite data. It still came off American satellites with American access. So it's still the Anglos giving it up and setting up somebody else to get murdered. That's what they do. You can't trust them. And I think finally it's gotten so nailed home in Moscow that the Trump is going to be our friend and the spirit of Anchorage, all this other crap narratives. They're dead. I think they're finally dead in the water. Trump might have not realized that yet. Probably hasn't, because he thinks we'll just sell them some more beads and take their land. That type of concept. But I think it finally just has gotten hammered through that you cannot trust the American government. That the American government that ICE agents can just walk in, shoot a woman 3 times in the head, and walk away, and literally get in the car and drive away from the scene of a crime. I mean, this is the government that you're dealing with now. And I'm not saying it's just because it's a Republican or negative. The Democrats are absolutely no better. They're the same, they're absolutely the same people. Just the last names are different. The donors and owners are the same. So yeah, you're dealing with a runaway pseudo collapsing empire that can't afford itself, but is spending money like it could print it. Oh yeah, it does print it electronically, anyways. If I had to compare the U.S. to something, it would be a red giant. So when a main sequence star is getting ready to die and it's running out of fuel internally, it starts expanding and eating everything around it. That's what the U.S. is at that point. It won't save it; it'll still explode and collapse, and we'll see what's left of America afterwards. Whether there's 2 countries there, 5 countries there, 20 countries there, who the hell knows? But the empire isn't going to survive. It's eating its own. It's eating itself. It's divided internally. And when it finally has to do the draft, oh, baby, I've got a couple tons of popcorn ready to pop for this one. It's going to be fun watching this shitstorm break out. So, yeah, that's at this point. I think Russia is finally been beaten into the Kremlin's through any of these jolly desires that we're finally going to reach peace and talk to somebody normal. That no, this is even worse than Biden. Hard to imagine that, and that this will only get settled on the battlefield.
Wow, Stas, that was a lot. With your usual enthusiasm and bombastic approach, I loved it. I not only found it, very informative. I had not thought of a number of things that you mentioned. You know, you mentioned the draft, and many of us have said for a long time when they got rid of the draft after the Vietnam War, they whoever the hell they were, realized that every American had a dog in the fight. Get rid of the draft. Now you just have these contract guys, and not every family in America has a husband, a son, a daughter, a cousin, uh, a best friend in the fight. And I think when you put it all together, as you mentioned, it's an empire that's collapsing, and it is obviously appearing to try to devour everything within its reach. Stas, thanks so much. It's always a pleasure. We have to do this more often. I hope
Absolutely.
that your the pills you're taking are going to help you get over this allergy thing, and because that's no fun, especially in the wintertime.
No.
Stas, take
No.
care.
You too. You too. Thank you.